Good evening to all my friends in Australia, New Zealand, and Japan in the Far East. Good afternoon to all my friends in and around India time zone. And good morning to Professor Rahman. This is the fifth webinar for the year, and today's topic is very contemporary and important in our daily life. Technologists' role in addressing climate sustainability, and to be delivered by none other than IEEE President and CEO, Professor Saifur Rahman. Dear participants, this webinar will give you the opportunity to listen to IEEE President, who is considered to be a very knowledgeable scholar on climate change, and you have the possibility to listen to him on long-term options for emerging economies, which are still heavily reliant on fossil fuels. You can gain valuable insights into the latest trends and advancements for mitigating effects of climate change, and you can at the end engage in dynamic question answer session directly with the IEEE President. So with these words, I'd request Professor Lance to kindly join and deliver the opening remarks. Professor Lance.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjay. Good afternoon, good evening, and in particular, very good morning for Professor Saifur Rahman for joining us from 5:30 over in USA. Well, on behalf of the organizing committee of the IEEE Region Talks, Region 10 Talks, I welcome you all to attend today's webinar entitled Technologists' Roles in Addressing Climate Sustainability by our IEEE President and CEO, Professor Saifur Rahman. I thank the Region 10 Vice Chair of Professional Activities, Dr. Zia Ahmed, and the Vice Chair of Technical Activities, Professor Takao Onoye, and the chairs of the various Region 10 committee, including the Industry Relations, Professional Activities, Young Professionals, Student Activities, Women in Engineering, and Life members who have worked very hard to bring you this Region 10 Talk series this year. I also acknowledge the presence of the chair of Region 10 Ad Hoc Committee on Climate Change, Professor Sheikh Fatah, who has been taking the lead in organizing activities in Region 10, as well as across the whole IEEE. Without doubt, the most pressing challenge of our time is climate change. It is an issue that knows no border, affects every corner of our planet, and demands our urgent attention. It is the utmost importance for the gravity of the situation, its impact on our sustainability, and we must know the crucial role that we all must play in finding solutions to this problem. Climate change is not just a theory. It is happening right now. Human activities, particularly the emissions of the Earth system, which will result in real threat to our economy, health, security, and even humans' very existence. The urgency of this situation must not be ignored. But as the latest warning from the World Meteorological Organization, WM, we experience new record of temperature in the next 5 years. It is even likely to breach the crucial threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2027. The UN agency warned that this will send the world into uncharted territory. We are at a crucial juncture where immediate actions is necessary to mitigate the worst effects of climate change. We must transition to a low-carbon economy, reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, and embrace sustainable practices in all sectors of the society. This requires a collective actions and efforts from the governments, businesses, civil society, and individuals like you and I. To this end, we need visionary leadership and bold policy decision to derive the transition towards the renewable energy, promote energy efficient and sustainable infrastructure. Our IEEE President and CEO, Professor Rahman, is leading the charge and outside of IEEE to address the challenge. In particular, he has proposed to more efficiently facilitate the group has attempts to address the climate change. The energy efficiency applications, carbon capture systems, renewable energy integrations, hydrogen and storage solutions, cross-border energy transfer, and advanced new technologies. Before I invite Professor Rahman to the floor, may I provide you an introduction to his biography. Professor Rahman is currently the President and CEO of IEEE. He is also the founder. He is professors of electrical and computer engineering. He also directs the Center for Energy and the Global Environment at the university. He is Life Fellow of the IEEE and an IEEE Millennium Award Medal awardee. He was the president of the IEEE Power and Energy Society for 2018 to 2019. He is the founding editor-in-chief of the IEEE Electrifications magazine and the IEEE Transactions on Sustainable Energy. He has published over 160 journal papers and has made more than 500 conferences and invited presentations. His H index is 60 with over 18,000 citations. In 2006, he served on the IEEE Board of Directors as the Vice President for the Publication Services and Products. He is a distinguished lecturer for the IEEE Power and Energy Society, and he has lectured on renewable energies, energy efficiency, smart grids, energy internet, blockchain, and IoT sensors integration in more than 30 countries. He is the founder of the BEM LLC, a Virginia, USA-based software computer company, providing the building energy management solution. He served as the chair of the U.S. National Science Foundation's Advisory Committee for International Science and Engineering from 2010 to Energy, Tokyo Electric Power Company, the U.S. National Foundations, U.S. Department of Defense, the U.S. Department of Energy, and the state of Virginia. He is a PhD in electrical engineering from Virginia Tech. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Rahman to address the audience. The floor is yours now, Professor Rahman. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. And thank you very much, Lance, for this kind introduction, both for me and the topic we're going to talk this afternoon, your time. So I'm happy that you have been so interested in this topic, and I'm happy to be here to offer some solutions from technology viewpoint. As Lance said, it's a big problem, a lot of things are happening. So let me get started. If you can share my screen, please, so that we can get going. Okay, so this is what I am going to talk about, the role of technologists like us in addressing climate sustainability. The keywords is climate sustainability and our role in this process. And this slide deck will be available to you because it is being recorded. So I would encourage your section leaders to use this to promote this idea going forward among your large community of engineers, scientists, technologists, and that like. Next slide. The first question that comes up on the next slide, why is climate sustainability a challenge? That's the issue. Why are you worried about it? And Lance has said something already briefly. Let me expand on this. We are experiencing all over the world unprecedented natural disasters. Why unprecedented? Things of that nature never happen, at least not so frequently. Now you see 100-year flood is happening in the US every 5 years. Cyclones used to happen every 20 years in high intensity, happening every 2 years. That's the difference. And we believe that the rising temperature globally is the primary cause behind it. So let's see some pictures about these natural disasters. Next slide. This slide will show you the life on the North Pole area. There are huge ice sheets. Polar bears move around, find fish, and survive. Now these ice sheets are breaking at multiple places. Now you got island of sheets, not a big ice sheet happening. And also what I've done in all these pictures I show you, I have given you the reference. If you want to study more as a researcher, go to the reference and see what other pictures, other documentation are available to get the story complete. Next slide. In this the slide coming up, showing flooding in all parts of the world, Africa, China, USA. On the upper left is Florida. On the upper right is China. Lower right is China again, and lower left is Africa. See, suddenly things happen, and you have no place to go. So one thing that is certain, climate change is happening globally. It is not affecting only the poor or only the rich, affecting everybody. Therefore, it is our obligation and duty to look at this challenge carefully ourselves and have a global challenge to address this problem with everybody participating. IEEE being so big, we're in 162 countries. That means we have people on the ground, like you have section leaders all over Region 10. They can be our ambassadors explaining to policymakers what they can do. And I'll give you some topic of 6 points you can focus on to make this problem at least manageable, if not removing the problem completely. Next slide. You'll see more pictures. In this case, many of you from that part of the world, Region 10, Pakistan was flooded heavily August of last year, and that created havoc. 1/3 of the country was underwater. Why did it happen? This is an issue of engineers' role. Why did it happen? Because ice melted very quickly in the Himalayas, and the water came out in large volume. When the temperature rose and the ice began melting, by the time the ice started melting and arrived in the Sindh area of Pakistan, it took 2 weeks. That means what? We had 2 weeks of notice that this glacier melting, causing the water level to go up, is going to happen. I would have hoped that some scientist, some engineer raised an alarm 2 weeks before the flooding happened. We will have time to move out of the flood zone and at least save lives. That didn't happen. That's the example of the role of technologists. We have to speak up, speak out. We know the glaciers are melting. We know how much time it takes for the water to come down from north to south. 2 weeks in this case. Nobody said anything. That's the problem. We were not prepared to face the issue. I'll show that example in a few minutes again, that you must be climate resilient. You have to predict what's happening, then take action, at least to minimize loss of life and properly protect properties. That's a good example that we should build on going forward. Next slide. Here you will see example in the US. This is a big hurricane. They call it hurricane here, we call it cyclone in India or Bangladesh. The hurricane Isabel struck the mid-Atlantic area of US, Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, going south a little bit. It's September 2003. You can see on the upper left is a street. You can see the parking meters flooded. People cannot drive. On the lower left is flooding causing cars to be stuck. And then on the right side, people rowing boats in downtown, in the Delaware downtown. So this is the challenge we are facing. Again, it's happening very frequently than it used to be. Next slide. Here you'll see another example of recently, January this year in New Zealand. They had, this is a summertime, January 23, they had bridges washed away with the force of the water. Never had so much rain in such short time. See on the right-hand side, all the cars got lifted up by the rising water and dumped in front of this house. So this is the challenge. Those of us who still say climate change is not real have to look at these pictures and see why this is happening. And people say, well, these things happen once in a while. This is the difference. No longer once in a while. It is every few years. Next slide. Here you'll see an example on the next slide. Hurricane Sandy, very famous hurricane in New York City and New Jersey, 2012, 10 years ago now. It was, again, a storm where you saw a lot of water pushing sand from the beaches into the neighborhoods. The picture on the left. All those homes are now half covered by sand, came from the beach. On the right-hand side, Queens, part of New York City, water on the street. So why is this storm so intense? Storm is air moving from the ocean side to the land side in this case. Because of the higher temperature, there's more moisture in the air on the ocean. Why is more moisture? Because water is warmer. If the sun hits the water, create more moisture. When the air has moisture, think in terms of physics, air has moisture, air is heavier. The heavier air has more damage potential. That's the reason. So more higher temperature, more moisture in the air, heavier air blowing from the ocean to the land side, and creating more destruction because air is now heavier than it used to be. That's the difference. That's the impact of temperature rise. Next slide. Here you will see, coming up, next slide, now we talked about flooding so far. Now the opposite, droughts. Two pictures here. On the left in Italy, on the right is Chongqing, China. People can walk across the river, no longer the bridge. It's the bridge on the backside of the picture from Chongqing. That is there, but I can walk across. So this is another example of water shortage. So climate change does not mean only global warming. It means changes in the climate where you had in the past not much flooding. Pakistan is not known for flooding. Bangladesh is. Pakistan is flooded, 30% of the country is underwater. So climate change means things will happen differently. That's the way I can say it simply. Happen differently. Where you had no flooding, get flooding. Where you have a lot of water, get drought. Where you have moisture in the air, causing a lot of damage. Next slide. Here you'll see on the next slide, wildfire. Another example, wildfire. This is upper left is California, lower right is Arizona in the US. Again, because of dryness, now is dryness here. When the lightning strikes, one tree it catches fire, and because of dry air, whole forest is on fire. This is another example. You can see flooding, drought, wildfires. The more pictures on wildfires, next few slides, please go ahead, change it, next one. Here you see Europe, France, Portugal, Germany, Greece, Spain, Italy. So you see the quoting here, number of wildfires in 2022 in the EU has quadrupled in the 15-year average. That means it's happening every few years, which used to happen every 15, 20 years. So Germany, Italy, Spain are not known for wildfires. Yes, US is, Australia is, but not France. But this is happening, again, I said before, the climate change is affecting everybody, everywhere, every country, rich and poor. Next slide. Siberia. Siberia means cold country, ice, snow, frozen atmosphere. See, June 21, Siberia has wildfires. This is the thing that Professor Lance Fang talked about. Things are changing. WMO has said be ready for more of these calamities to come through in your neighborhood. Next slide. The next slide will show what is happening outside Siberia now. Next slide. The slide needs to move. আমার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে? স্লাইড মুভ করছে না কেন?
Is there any problem with the slides?
It's not moving.
আপনি ছেড়ে দিন, আমি দেখছি।
Okay.
Veronica, please. Is there any problem with the slide changing?
Yeah, my audio is fine. You can hear me, but slide is not changing.
She said on the WhatsApp that she has moved the slide. So I'm not too sure it's anything with her network over the side. Sanjay, do you have a, so I think it's moving now.
It's not moving on my screen.
Yeah, mine's gone blank.
She has a signal issue.
Just hold on. I will try to play it from my side. Just hold on, sir. Just hold on.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Start with slide number 12.
I can share the slide from my side.
Okay, this is number 12. Go to
Sharing
number
it.
13.
Amy, are
Next
you
slide,
sharing
please.
it?
Yep.
Amy, are you sharing it? Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's not working. Yes. I have also kept it.
Okay,
right.
that's good. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We have seen flooding, drought, wildfire. Now we see snowstorm. This one, I was in China at the time. In the southern part of China, it never snows. Because of the weight of the ice, towers collapsed. And this happened during the Spring Festival, by the way, in China. So that was a huge disruption of life because people could not move again. So flood, drought, wildfire, now snowstorm. Next slide, please. So now the question is, I've given you the examples. Question you have to ask why this is happening. I've said something already, but let's take it more formally. This is happening because of high anthropogenic CO2 emissions. Anthropogenic means man-made. The CO2 is happening for millions of years, but now because of our activities, that concentration has gone up and causing this problem. Next slide. So look at this carefully. This is data going back to 800,000 years ago, carbon dioxide level in the North Pole. So see the number here, 800,000 till now, 20th century, the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere remained between 200 to 250. Question you may ask, how do we know what was the CO2 concentration that far back? There's no sensors. We were not there. Human beings are about 500,000 years old, our life, our origins. So how do you know what was the CO2 concentration on the North Pole 800,000 years back? How do you know? This is how we know. We're talking about CO2 in the air. So CO2 in the air means if you can get an air sample, you analyze it, you see the percentage of CO2 and nitrogen oxide, hydrogen, oxygen in the air. We know that. We can do that. Imagine that far back, there's still air in the atmosphere, and there's also moisture. So the moisture in the air gets cold, that becomes snow. Snow falls on the ground and stays there. And more moisture comes in next year, more snow falls again on the ground. So snow layer builds up over time. Scientists know on the average how many years it takes for 1 centimeter of snow to build up, or 1/10 centimeter of snow to build up. They know that. Now you know that if I go back, I don't know, 3 meters down, I can see snow sample that was in the air half million years back. They can do those calculations, they can calibrations. By that number, they drill hole X meters deep, bring out ice sample. Take it to the lab, you melt the ice. What is ice has what? Air, bubble, and moisture. Air bubble comes out, you look at the air sample and then analyze what is in the air. That's how you know the CO2 level that far back. This is very precise, not made up. What happened beginning the mid-1800s when the steam engine was invented and they burned coal to make steam, and the steam engine was part of the first industrial revolution, first revolution, IR. That's why things begin to change. And now, beginning 1950, it shot up from 250 to almost 400. What happened in 1950 timeframe? That's where we began to build a lot of power plants, a lot of vehicles, diesel engine, coal burning power plant. Suddenly, significant amount of CO2 began to emerge and go in the sky. Next slide, please. You'll see from 1750 till now, 2 numbers. The purple one on the left is atmospheric CO2 parts per million, the pink line. On the right, the blue line is CO2 emission per year. One is atmospheric concentration in ppm, parts per million. On the right is emission per year, billions of tons. You can see my numbers here, the pink line. It is below 284 till about 1850 or so. Slowly began to rise as we burn more coal. Beginning the 1950s, we began to burn more coal, more oil, more gas, and it shot up to 450 or so, 420 or so ppm now. Again, annual emission of CO2 from 1750, it is very close to 0, maybe 1. This is, now look at this, 1930 is about 4, 1950 about 5. From 50 shot up to about 37 billion tons per year CO2 globally, 37 billion tons. All of that goes in the sky and stays there. CO2 lives in the air for about 150 years. So what we emitted in 1870 is still here. Next slide. Here, some breakdown. Where is the CO2 coming from? CO2 emission due to fossil fuel use in year 2021 alone. Coal was the biggest contributor, 15.3 billion tons. Next is oil, 10.7. Third is natural gas. 3 fossil fuels contributing heavily to the global CO2 concentration. Again, I've given you the source on the bottom of the page. If you want to study more, please visit those sources. Next slide. Here you'll see Professor Lance Fang mentioned that the temperature rise. So 1850 till about 1925 or so, or 1940 or so, the delta T, the change of temperature from pre-industrial age before 1850 was plus minus 0.2, plus minus. Keep it in mind, plus minus. Beginning 1970 or so, it's no longer minus, it's all plus. And I am giving you 1, 2, 3, 4 data sets. It's not just one association or agency telling us. European ERA, NASA, No American, and the Met Office in the UK, all are showing same numbers. It is fluctuating, but the trend is positive. We have reached now 1.2 degrees today, 1.2 degree more than what used to be before the Industrial Revolution. Paris Climate Change Agreement said we must contain the global temperature rise to under 1.5 degrees centigrade, contain below that. We are already 1.2. If we keep on going at this range, by 2035, 2040, we'll reach the 1.5 degree rise target. That's the target. Look at this other number. If and when the global temperature rise goes 2 degrees more than the industrial age number, point of no return. It's done. Serious, it's done. Why is done? Because once that happens, that temperature will make more moisture from the sea or ocean water, more hurricane, more cyclone, and it thinks goes back. It's a feedback loop now, closed loop. So we cannot control it anymore. It is so serious. Therefore, we must do all we can to reduce our carbon emissions so that we are not feeding the temperature rise beyond 1.5 degrees. So this is serious. Next slide. Now we talked about CO2, but CO2 is not the only greenhouse gas. There are 6 greenhouse gases. CO2 is the primary one. You can see CO2, methane, nitrous oxide, and 2 fluorocarbons, and SF6, which is a gas used in the power industry as an insulator. So look at the carbon dioxide. Fossil fuel and industrial processes give 65%, and carbon dioxide from forestry, land use, cutting trees primarily, another 11%. So 76% of the greenhouse gas emissions is carbon dioxide. Next, methane. That is rising very fast, by the way. Next, methane. 16%. Where is methane coming from? It is rotting of organic materials, like your garbage. Rice paddy. When the leaf is in the water, leaf rots. So that is a growing number. In fact, at Glasgow COP26, methane was added as a fuel, as a gas to watch and control its output so that it is not causing more damage. Nitrous oxide 6%, and other hydrofluorocarbons are 2% or 1%, and SF6 gas used as an insulator in the power industry is a growing threat as well. So we are focusing on CO2 because of CO2's concentration in this case. Next slide. You'll see 2 numbers on the left and the right. Emerging economies, China, India. Look at the CO2 emissions in gigatons, billion tons. China year 2000 was about 3.5. Now it is 12 per year. 2021, 12 billion tons of CO2 came from China in 2021. India contributed about 2.5 billion tons, growing number. On the right-hand side, European Union, Japan, and US, 3 countries, they are industrialized. Their CO2 emissions are either flat or going down. This is a debate now. Emerging economies are producing more CO2 than before. Industrialized countries are producing less. So who is causing this problem? I address that in a few minutes, but keep that thought in mind. Next slide. Here you'll see history. I gave you that current 2020 to 2022 and so on. Industrialized 150 years ago, China had no coal plant. India had no coal activity. UK had, US had, because coal was burned for steam. Look at the left-hand side, the yellow background. 23 rich countries. I'm looking at history now, not just last 20 years, history. 23 rich developed nations, countries, are responsible for half the all historical CO2 emissions. US 24.6, Germany 5.5, Japan 3.9, big ones, Europe, France 2.3, UK 4.4. You can Italy, Spain, Austria, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Netherlands, Belgium, all of that are on the left side. On the right-hand side, the other 150 countries are responsible. Now, total historical number, not 1 year, historical, 150 years, 100 years or so. China, number 1, 13.9, Russia, 6.8, India, 3.2, Ukraine, 1.8. Then on the upper right, this is the air transport, 2.5. Again, point is, this is the debate. Yes, China, India, Indonesia, Vietnam are producing more CO2 now than they used to, and US and Japan and UK and EU are doing less. True. At the same time, if you ask the question, who has done what in the last 100 years? This is the chart. So now we have the both sides of the story. How we solve this? That's my challenge as an engineer. Next slide. So summarizing what I just said, over the past 170 years, 50% of global emissions came from rich countries, whose population is 12%. So 12% of the population globally produced half the global emissions, and other 88% of the population produced 48%. And 2% are shipping and air traffic. Shipping is a ship going from, I don't know, Singapore to Sweden. So which country do you blame? We cannot. So we put it as a separate category now. So half the world CO2 in the sky today came from 12% of the population, which is from the rich countries. Keep that thought in mind. We have to deal with that problem. Next slide. So how do we address this problem? It's a problem globally. We cannot keep on blaming one side or the other. One says, well, you're producing more CO2 now, China, India, Vietnam, and so on, Indonesia, slow down. And they'll say back to US and EU and Japan and so on, well, you have done it yourself, so give us a chance. Coal is still the cheaper fuel, and there are almost 1,000 coal-fired power plants today operating in the world. You cannot shut them down overnight. So that's the challenge. So we have to accept some coal, but keep it as clean as you can. Next slide. Here are the three things we can do: mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. What is mitigation? That's what I'm talking about. Mitigation: slow down the impact, burn less fuel, make less CO2, add less temperature change to the atmosphere. This is slow down the impact. Some say it's over, you cannot slow down, so we have to adapt. So we have to build barriers. We have to make sure the flood water doesn't come into my country and so on and so forth, and learn to live with flooding. So adaptation means take actions to live with the problem. So raise the floor of the house, build dams, hold the water back, whatever you can do. Make the building stronger so you can withstand heavy wind speed, and so on and so forth. Those are adaptation. Third is climate resilience. That means prepare to recover quickly. For example, if in Pakistan last year, they knew the water from melting glaciers coming down in 2 weeks, they've taken some action to protect their property and life from severe damage. So they would not have to be flooded away. Resilience means get ready to recover quickly from damaging events. So you do something to protect yourself. So again, mitigation, I'm talking about mitigation here. There are people who talk about adaptation, which is acceptable, but we should also focus on resilience because we know this is happening, cannot stop it, but we must recover quickly from the damage that is happening. As you see my slides at the bottom, I give you a website, climate-change.IEEE.org. That is our website we created. I'll give you more data in a few minutes. That's, as you see those URL, you may be asking, what is that talking about? That's the IEEE website on climate change. Okay, next slide, please. So I said this, mitigation will allow time to adapt by developing new technologies, best practices, and policy formulation. Let me explain this. We know this is coming. If you can slow it down by not producing so much CO2 and methane, the moisture content in the ocean will happen, but happen more slowly. It gives us time. Then you have new technologies, how to build homes or habitation which are flood, not as much flood damageable. So that's technology. Best practices, how we create our daily life activities so that we are not as easily affected. Let's see the street flooding, for example. So what can you do? You take, happened in New Zealand, you have 6 to 12 hour notice this is happening. So in that, what is best practice? You should park your car, not plan to drive because people die of drowning on the street. That's called best practice. And policy formulation. Governments have to have policies based on technology, based on best practices so they can protect human lives. So that's mitigation's impact. That's what I'm focusing on more now. Next slide, please. So what is our role? Technologists. We can help develop and promote universally applicable clean tech solutions for climate sustainability. This is the question. How can we do this? Clean tech solutions for climate sustainability. Also look at the word universally applicable, very important. We saw in my 3-4 slides back who contributed more CO2 and in the past who is contributing more. We must have solutions which are acceptable to both parties, the early polluters and new polluters. That's why I say it must be universally applicable, not just in the west or the east or north or south. Next slide. So here is the source. What is the CO2 coming from? Electricity and heat production, this is a global number. If I look at US, it's different. Let's look at global first. Electricity and heat production is causing 1/4 of the CO2 emissions. Agriculture, forestry, and land use also causing CO2 because of cutting down trees, growing food, and so on and so forth. Another 1/4. Buildings contribute to CO2. This is mostly in the northern hemisphere. When you cold temperature, you are in many countries, even today, even in Korea and in some European countries, they still burn coal. China for heating. That's 6%. Transportation, including air transportation, is 14%. If you look at the US number, the transport sector is responsible for almost 37% of CO2, transport sector alone in the US. Globally, the number of cars and trucks, not as much as the US per population number. That number is lower globally. Industry, that's mainly steel, cement, aluminum, which use a lot of energy for their function. Other would be air transport, shipping, and so on. So focusing on, in my case now, as an electrical engineer, looking at electricity sector, which is 1/4 of the CO2 emission output. Now, yes, we have transportation, we have industry, we have buildings, that's true. But transportation is not focusing on electricity usage as much. It'll be going more with the more electric vehicles, but for now it's all fossil fuel based. So from this point on, I'll focus on electricity sector's contribution to CO2 emission and what can we do to make it less impactful. Next slide, please. Here you'll see my 6-point solution. In fact, Professor Lance Fang mentioned this already. Again, I'm showing an answer to the challenge which is universally applicable. Keyword, universally. Rich, poor countries, all of them can do this. First is the low-hanging fruit. Use less electricity so that you do not burn as much coal or oil to make that electricity. That's very simple. So by controlling our lighting intensity, controlling our temperature in buildings, we can play a role ourselves, which will help us to be energy efficient. So please do that in your own life as much as you can. Dim some lights if you don't need as much lighting. Raise the temperature in your air conditioner by 2 degrees. I have data which shows if I raise the temperature in my office building by 2 degrees centigrade, I save 10% electricity, 10%. That means I am not burning that much coal to produce that electricity. Very simple. Number 2 on my list, use low carbon fossil fuel power plants. I said the 1,000 coal-fired power plants running globally today, I cannot shut them off in the next 20 years, all of them. It's not possible. So use technology, which is higher efficiency, so that, example, today we have coal plants that are 38-40% efficient, coal plants. The high temperature coal-fired plants are 44-45% efficient. You go from 40 to 44%, 10% increase in efficiency. That means you're using 10% less coal for the same plant. So this is the focus we should keep on. These are more expensive, but they're producing less CO2. That's the reality. Yes, coal will be there, but use less coal if possible. Now, including in that discussion is carbon capture. So we can do carbon capture from coal plants so that the CO2 produced by burning coal is not going in the sky. So efficient coal and carbon capture and storage, number 2. Number 3, hydrogen and other storage technologies. We know batteries are in our vehicles. Lithium-ion batteries are very popular. We know that. Hydrogen is another possibility to have large-scale storage. Why is that important? In many countries now, the output of solar energy in midday is more than the demand in midday. So that is wastage. In many cases, in the US, I know, also in Denmark, the nighttime wind energy is more than the demand in the region. So that is wasted. If you can use hydrogen to make, or hydrogen from water through electrolysis, when the supply is free, right? Wind is out there, demand is not there, so the extra wind is not being used. Use that electricity from extra wind to make hydrogen, which can be used in fuel cells later on, or burn in hydrogen IC engines. So that's number 3. Promote more renewables. Promote more renewables. We're doing it already. We have today over billion or 1,000 gigawatts of renewable today, 1,000 gigawatts globally. So that's happening. We should do more in many countries which have the opportunity, especially in the global south. Promote renewables except some nuclear. Because of Fukushima, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, nuclear has a bad image, globally, bad image. Germany is still on track to shut down all its nuclear plants by 2035 or so. I said, except nuclear is a clean fuel in terms of CO2 emissions. So if you have more nuclear, you'll have less coal. to produce same electricity, but the image nuclear has is negative today. However, there are some new technologies, small reactors that are modular. Small modular reactors, SMRs, are small, they are not as risky, and they are not need to be refueled as often as the big 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plants are done today. So again, except some nuclear, primarily small modular reactors, SMRs, or advanced reactors, small 30, 40, 60, 100, 200 megawatt size, not 1,000 megawatt size. And those are easier to build and faster to build. Number 6, very important, promote cross-border power transfer. Very few countries in the world are totally self-sufficient in electrical production domestically. US buys a lot from Canada today. India buys from Nepal, Bhutan as an example. China sells to Vietnam. If you go to Europe, France sells to Switzerland, to Spain, because France has a lot of nuclear. And in the Middle East, the Gulf countries are buying and selling among themselves. In Southern Africa, Southern African Power Pool and their other neighbors are buying and selling. So we want to encourage that. In fact, at the Region 10 meeting in Vietnam last March, we had a session on cross-border power transfer. So it is being talked about, but we have to make it part of our life. We should not always talk about building enough power plants within your national borders so you're self-sufficient, which feels good, sounds good politically, but adds more CO2. Example, rather than building coal plants to serve your local needs within your boundaries, if you can buy power which is solar-based or wind-based or hydro-based from a neighboring country, why not? There's a question here. No country feels safe by relying on other country over long term to sell them electricity because of the politics, obviously. So what can we do to make sure that electricity is not turned off by the selling country because they don't like you anymore? So that discussion is going on at the UN level today, and we'll see more of that coming in. So yes, cross-border power transfer will only be acceptable if and when we have some treaties, some obligations, but the selling country cannot unilaterally, within a short notice, shut down the power. That's something we should keep watching. So next slide. Here you'll see now coming to IEEE. IEEE has built this website and offering what I call climate change engagement opportunities for our sections. So this is something I am pushing very hard as the president of IEEE. I gave a set of slides to the MGA vice president last week and told her, send this slide deck to all section chairs, all chapter chairs globally, everybody, leaders. They can have these slide decks. Use these slide decks to explain to your community what is climate change challenge and what is IEEE doing about this, so we can be a part in this solution process. So that's my mission right now. Again, climate-change.ieee.org is the website. Next slide. Here is what we are doing and what you can do to participate as section chair and chapter chair. We have a mission-based challenge on the left-hand side. We understand pragmatic and accessible technical solutions are needed urgently to address climate change. That's my talk last 35 minutes. I said that already. We as engineers and technologists are well and uniquely placed to provide technical solutions and offer a neutral space for discussion and action. Very important. We are not a company. We're not a government, IEEE. We are neutral. We have nothing to sell, nothing to buy. So we can offer a platform which is unbiased, where governments can come, industry can come, common people can come, the academics can come and discuss. That's our strength. So I would urge all of you, section leaders, please use your platform, section platform, to invite political leaders, city mayor's office, power company people, academics, other industries who are using a lot of coal and oil and gas, whatever it is, to come and talk. And you show them these slides, see what we can do for you. So that's the challenge. On the right-hand side, what IEEE brings to the challenge. Number one, we have now a commitment to the constant pursuit of innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity. See, if you look at IEEE logo, it says advancing technology for humanity. I'm giving life to that slogan by doing in the climate space what we can do. We have a lot of experts among our members, all across IEEE publications space, conference space, standard space, who are experts. Those expertise can be brought to these sessions and meetings to explain things. Because of our collaborative platforms, we can bring people to collaborate on like Collaborate Tech, IEEE Collaborate Tech as an example, where people can come and use. So finally, longer term IEEE engagement in creating and promoting technical solutions and applications for addressing climate change. We will remain engaged. We will encourage others to contribute their ideas, knowledge, and vision, which we can package and promote to the governments, city leaders, industry leaders, and the like. So, for example, if you're talking about a power company in some developing countries who are primarily coal-based, and tell them this coal is creating CO2, causing this damage, this, well, I have no choice, I have to do this. If you can find some way to give them a technology called DAR, direct air capture, DAC, direct air capture of CO2. So that way, they would keep on burning the coal, but not adding to the CO2 load. Those are the knowledge transfer I hope we will be able to pursue going forward as leaders of sections. Next slide, please. So here you'll see our website. I've just mentioned this already, climate-change.IEEE.org. Don't put www in the front. This is HTTPS, no www needed. So here you see some headings. We have talked about technical solutions. We're building community of engineers like yourself, sectional leaders, and what we have done are still doing to mitigate the impact of climate change. That's in the slide. If you want to write to me, write to us. On the lower right-hand side of the screen is the email address ccircc.ieee.org. That's our email address. Write to us if you have any questions, please. Next slide. Here, this website is more detailed. This website gives you, the IEEE member section leader, to discover global IEEE activities that we are doing in North America, in Asia, in Africa, in Australia, and so on, and get involved. We're launching a new climate change newsletter this month, which will be posted on this website. If you want to sign up, and you can get copies yourselves, it's coming up next week or so. Every week or every month, we publish an article related to climate change. Last one was on storage, for example. We have done on CO2 emissions, transport sector, CO2 output, and so on. That's happening. We have now what is called IEEE Explore Climate Change Collections, IEEE Climate Change Collection. We have sorted through 5.5 million articles in the Explore database and found about 8,000 articles relate directly to climate change issues. Those are in that collection. So if you go to the website and go to the climate change collection page, and you'll see how to access these papers. And those are classified based on sea level rise, water temperature issue, CO2 emissions, carbon capture technologies. All those classifications are there in that set of 8,000 papers. And also, we will help if you in your community share The articles we are writing every month about a topic that relates to climate change in your Facebook links, in your LinkedIn pages, whatever it is. So that way, more people will see, because not everybody knows about this website yet. So they don't see these articles we're publishing every month. So please see the article yourself and republish on your own network. And from this website, you'll see things to come. We will list conferences which are climate change related on this website. So if you're looking for places to go in your neighborhood, in your country, in your region that relates to climate change topic, in that conference, you'll have that information. Next slide. So this is the collection I just mentioned. If you go to the main website, climatechange.ieee.org, and go to the page called Resources from IEEE, that's the page. And you click on that page, you go to that list of papers. Again, it is behind the paywall. Well, there are two kinds of papers. One, open access, you can see it right away. Behind the paywall, many papers, you are at a university as a company which subscribe to IEEE library, you can get that. If not, you got to either buy or have somebody that you know has that access give you that paper. So this is, I'm very proud you have done it. We have resourced. In fact, when I went to the climate change convention COP27 in Egypt, we made it public open for everybody for a month so people could see it at no cost. Next slide, please. So this is a newsletter that I just mentioned. Well, next week it'll be published on the website, and you can find the link is here, climate-change.ieee.org/sign up. You sign up this way, and you'll get the newsletter sent to your mailbox automatically. Next slide. So this is something else already happening. IEEE Power Energy Society has a magazine called Electrification. This magazine published two very relevant articles in the last few months. One on the left is a From Ship to Shore. That came out in March of 2023, this year, 3 months ago. Why is it important? All of you watch fly. When the plane comes to the gate and the ramp comes up, the plane engine stops, but lights still on, right, in the plane. It's air conditioning, a PA system working. How does it work? As soon as the plane comes to the gate, they hook the plane up with the power from the shore, we call it shore power, and power from the wall. There's a cable, you can see it going up to the plane. Now plane is run by the electricity from the wall, from the power station. Plane. This is not happening on ships. And ships dock and on the port side, they still run the diesel engine. They're not using the shore power to run the ship. There's 2 megawatt, 3 megawatt load. Still diesel is burning, and this ship could be there for a day, still burning diesel all that time. We're proposing, please, when you bring the ship to the shore, hook up to, like the planes do, to the shore power. That's not happening yet. Two reasons. One is it's not there, and there's a lot of power needed to put those ships on the shore power. So we need infrastructure to make sure that extra 5-10 megawatts of capacity available for ships to hook up. So that's an example of awareness building. And this, you can see the paper on rethinking ports as multi-energy hubs, connecting charging infrastructure, how to plug in the fishing fleet, same thing. So this is our way of saying to the world, we IEEE members, we technologists have solutions for you to use. For example, if it is mandated by the local authorities that ships, when they dock, must use shore power, but they cannot do it unless you provide enough power. So that's the issue of policy, technology, and regulation. That's one. Right-hand side, Electrification magazine had a lot of articles on solar energy. And solar is not that simple because you have to provide infrastructure to receive that power. Unless you have a substation which has excess capacity to absorb power, you do not make it happen. In fact, when you build a solar array, you have to build a substation with it. That's my point. You cannot price solar energy based on the panel cost alone or panel inverter cost alone. You have to make sure you have substation built to accept that power and transmission line to carry that power to where the load is. So those are the electrical issues we understand, but a politician may not understand. Say, put a solar panel, is done. No, it's not done. We need the infrastructure to have transformers, power lines to be built and brought power to where it's needed. Again, my point is we're doing this already. We have these publications, so please promote this. If you're a member of PES, PELS, IAS, IES, you get that for free. Others can also subscribe if they want to. Next slide. So more things to come. I convinced the publications board to start thinking about a journal on climate change. The work is going on right now. It will be like the IEEE Access, meaning it is not going to belong to a society like transactions on smart grid, power, energy. It belongs to all of IEEE, like IEEE Access. So climate change journal is on the works, is being processed right now. They're building the board of editors right now, expecting to come out early 2024. Again, there's some other place for those who are professors and students and scholars. You have a place to publish your work on climate change in an IEEE journal. Next one. So this is my ecosystem for IEEE's climate sustainability work. Ecosystem, publications, meeting space, section involvement, chapter involvement. So also we have published materials. I showed you those 6 points that I explained about reducing carbon emissions. IEEE published a paper in the Spectrum in the January issue on that topic. This paper is the cover page of this paper. It's available from the IEEE climate change website today, as an example. Then we have on the upper, in the middle, Explore database. I mentioned this, our library of articles on the middle. On the right-hand side are conferences, IEEE Standards Association, also focusing on climate change. In fact, IEEE also Education Board has a page on climate change related topics for education. It's happening across all of IEEE. This is our ecosystem, publications, conferences, standards, education, all of that are happening. So you as section leaders, please be aware of this. Ask if you don't get good answers, write to me, ircc@IEEE.org, and tell us what you need. We'll respond as soon as we can. Also, we'll have a place for sponsored content from industry. We have to make revenue to do all this kind of work. So many industry I see ad on BBC television that are called renewable diesel, as an example. How electricity being used to run trucks. So those companies will be happy to promote their solutions on the IEEE platform, like an information-based ad, let's say, and we'll get some revenue from them, but we will make sure they are not commercial only. They have technical depth, and our members will benefit from knowing this is happening. So that's our ecosystem for climate change sustainability work that we are embarking upon. Next slide. So now you, section leaders, you have the responsibility, you have the technology, you have the volunteer urge to bridge the gap between technology, which we talked about, and its applications through awareness building. Applications through awareness. Why? City mayor's office. You tell them that if the city-owned buildings are more energy efficient by reducing temperature numbers in winter, reducing, being it cooler, and raising in summer, being a little bit warmer, you can save 10-15% energy. They don't know that, but they can do that very easily. Awareness building. Again, I gave the example of the port, right? The port authority can be told, if you, port authority, would require the ships to use shore power, they will shut down the diesel engine and they'll save 20,000 tons of CO2 per year. Big number. They don't know that. So once you get this in their head, they'll begin to scratch their head. Well, how can I, the port authority leadership, get power to the port, and then we don't have the diesel burning? They go to the power company, they build some extra capacity. Power company is happy because they're selling more electricity. They make more money in that process. Hopefully, they're not producing that electricity from coal. Hopefully not. So that's the awareness building. Very simple things, but we don't think that way. My job as a president to make you think differently, think positively, and make impact. If I can see that happening, my life would be worth living. Next slide. This is the final thing. We are having this Sections Congress. I know Lance will go, and many other section leaders, I hope. I'll see you there. I'll be there. To make this impactful, I have told the staff, create a climate change pavilion at this thing. So pavilion means we'll have displays, we have posters, we have case studies. And our friend, Dr. Sheikh Fatah, is taking charge of creating content for that climate change, our pavilion. So it'll be, if you are in Ottawa, please make time to come to the climate change pavilion in the big space and show us what you have done. Tell us what we can do. And maybe we can highlight you going forward to make us more visible among our community of engineers and volunteers. Next slide. So this is what we can expect in the Climate Change Pavilion at the Sections Congress. So first of all, by going there, you see case studies, increase your knowledge about climate change, of course. In the middle part, gain understanding of what IEEE is doing in response. All the things I talked about. There'll be slides, there'll be video clips explaining what is happening. So I could not reach all 354 section chairs today in this event, but they will be there to get more knowledgeable. And commit personally by making a pledge that you'll plant 10 trees in your backyard or in your park, whatever you are, to do this. But please do provide us your ideas by July 15th to this email address at the bottom, ccircc@ieee.org, and we will take those ideas and tell them how we are responding to those, and I'll share those with Professor Fatah for his team to work on that. So attending this pavilion during the Sections Congress will allow volunteers to see what is happening in IEEE and other places. And the website has a lot of information. At the pavilion, there'll be interactive touch screens to learn more about your climate, what's happening in Australia. Coal is a big issue there. What the government is doing to reduce dependence on coal, what's happening in India, happening in China, happening in Vietnam, happening in Bangladesh, happening in Pakistan. So all of that will be there going forward. So again, you'll see the newsletter, which will be launched this month. And please sign up so you get a copy yourself. And not only read it, contribute content showing what you have done or plan to do in your section to get it going. So that's the reason for us to have this pavilion to be visible. It's a big pavilion, which is in the middle of the floor, so you cannot miss it. But please do take the time to come and share your thoughts at the pavilion. Next slide. So again, IEEE has a lot of social media channels. These are the president's social media channel in Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. You know the facebook.com/IEEE President for Facebook. Instagram, same thing, /IEEE President. LinkedIn /IEEE President. Twitter /IEEE President. If you link to these, or if you sign up to be on my Twitter feed, for example, or sign up in LinkedIn, on the LinkedIn page, Facebook page, you'll get more information. We update every 2 weeks messages that I present in various parts of the world. I was in Brussels, I got back last Thursday and Friday. They had EU Green Week. I spoke there about what IEEE is doing. So I am not only talking to inside IEEE, outside IEEE as well, so that they know IEEE is a player, is an active member of the community to promote clean tech solutions for climate sustainability. So that's the message I am going to leave with you going forward. Next slide. Thank you very much. I've given you my email address also, my website, srahman.org. That website, I've already published this lecture slide set, published today. Go to their website, go to the page called webinars, and you'll see the slide deck. Just download it, use it as much as you can. One more thing I should say here, and say that in the beginning, we talk about electric vehicles. We do a lot. Many countries are pushing hard to make more electric vehicle on the streets. We know that. But the issue is electric vehicle is not the final solution. You have to ask that question. Yes, I'm using electricity, not gasoline to run my car. But the question has to be asked, where is the power coming from that is charging your battery? Where is it coming from? From a power plant. What is the power plant using to make that electricity? If it is using coal, it's no good. If it is clean fuel, nuclear fuel, solar is okay. So to ask that question, yes, electricity is good for my car. I must know how you're producing the electricity, how you're making it. 2 examples, Shandong, China, and West Virginia in the US. Both of those locations are heavily coal-based, 90% or more. The data shows if you are running an electric vehicle in Shandong, China, or West Virginia in the US, even the electric car is producing more CO2 than using diesel engine or petroleum engine. Why? Petroleum engine is petroleum engine. That's done. If you're using electricity from a coal plant, you're burning so much coal that the balance is negative. So I'll stop here for now, and I'll let Sanjay or somebody take charge and move on. Thank you very much for your attention. I spoke a long time, but I wanted to have the message across from multiple perspectives. I hope that was useful. Thank you again. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. May I now request Dr. Fatah Sheikh to kindly coordinate the question and answer session with Professor Rahman. Over to Fatah Sheikh, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Saifur Rahman, for a very comprehensive talk, I should say. So we are learning because the same topic maybe you are giving several places, but the examples, brilliant. Every time you are bringing very new examples. I like that. I think all the participants, they enjoyed much. I just have, because there are question answer maybe in the question answer board. So I have just one small concern, what you have rightly pointed out, that I mean the economy and the carbon emission, they have a close relationship, and you have emerging economy countries like China, India, you have shown their carbon emission pattern. So maybe there are some other small countries, their economy is also emerging economy country, but the economy size is relatively smaller. So in that case, universally applicable clean tech solutions, what you are telling, you would like to, if you shed more lights on that, like that universally acceptable clean tech solution, or they need locally sustainable global technology considering their own small economy?
No, that's a very good observation, Fatah. Here's my answer. Answer is, I did not name those countries, even Singapore not on my list, because they are not big enough to be visible globally. I gave a talk like this at the Singapore meeting of ISGT last November. Many of people here were there. And I was told when they heard this, my talk, I have 6 points. Out of 6, Singapore is following 5 already, except nuclear. Except nuclear. So they are doing all 5 of the 6. So any country, pick up Sri Lanka, small country, can look at this. So it is applicable universally. Maybe not all 6 applies to you, but some subset of 6 applies to you. 1 applies to everybody, and efficiency and low usage of energy for what you do. Yes, with time, with like Bangladesh and Pakistan, part of India, a lot of load is growing because of air conditioning load. That is a serious issue for me to watch. Do not keep the room, so don't make it 21, make it 25 degrees centigrade. We'll go in the room, make it 18. 20. See, if you do that, you are cooling too much, and you don't need to do that. This is a behavior issue, self issue. It should not be say I can afford it. It's not the issue of affordability. To me, currency is not dollar or taka rupees. It's CO2 is my currency, not the monetary value. So ask that question, by doing what I've done, am I causing more CO2 to be emitted? Then you are careful. So do not judge based on the currency of your country, based on the CO2. So again, as you said, Fatah, it is an awareness building issue. So universal is universal for me, but the examples can be shared by them as well. Maybe Sri Lanka, a small country, even New Zealand, can look at this issue and see how much they can save by reducing the light intensity in their government buildings. That will be my answer. There are many questions on the screen as well. You want to read them, or you want me to read them and try to answer, Fatah?
You are muted.
You're
Dr. Fatah,
muted.
you are muted.
Oh, so there will be a question answer summarized, and Sanjayda will be reading that. I just want to add one last comment, because you rightly said, yes, low electricity use. You have given the habitual issue there, and more efficient things. We are in the 4th industrial revolution, smart sensors, IoT. I would just like to know your thoughts, role of AI and machine learning in this particular case. I mean, less electricity and more efficiency.
I did that research 3 years ago using machine learning. Here's a context. We put lighting control in a government building in Arlington County where I work, government building, to reduce their power consumption because the demand was fairly high. So you cannot always dim. You cannot always turn things off. So we use basically visiting the place. It's a kind of manual machine learning, visiting the place and talk to the user. When do you go to lunch? When does the boss come to office? When does the boss go out for other meetings? Some trends. And based on that, we create a table. For lunch, 12:30 to 1:30 roughly, most people are gone. We'll dim the light during that time, dim the light. The boss, who comes about 10 o'clock because he has other meetings in the morning. So why should the boss's light be on and AC on from 8 a.m.? Normally it is on 8 a.m., 8 to 6, every day, no questions asked. Conference rooms are used once in a while, not every hour. In the morning, staff comes in, turn the lights on conference room, AC on, it stays on till 6 o'clock. We did this machine learning manually and found out when the conference room is used, we'd give them a table. Based on the table, they change their behavior. They save 30% electricity, 30% month to month. So that can be automated by AI. They can watch when people go, when they come back, when the conference room is occupied, which day of the week is heaviest use. Typically in the Wednesday is heavier use than other parts of the week, and that can be done. So that can be automated, that observation, to make life easier for everybody.
Thank you. Sanjayda, like the question answers.
Okay,
Questions
okay.
are there. Yeah.
Sir, there are 1 or 2 questions that we will take from the chat box.
Okay,
Mr. Shoaib
please.
Chatterjee here said that a recent study at IIT Kanpur that electric vehicles are doing more harm to the environment. Battery electric cars emit 15 to 50% more greenhouse gases in different categories other than other vehicles. Sir, what is your idea?
Yeah, this is an observation which is true on the surface. You have to ask that question. I said that already, West Virginia and Shandong province. This is my answer. That it is true, 15%, 50% more greenhouse gas, because where is the power coming from? So that's that you have to ask that question. That I don't know what Kanpur is in UP, maybe there are coal plants in UP. So it ask that question, give me power from solar energy or wind energy or hydro, not coal. This is a good example to bring to the attention of the regulators in UP province, UP state, that make sure not only BEV is the answer. Answer is where is the power coming from? So unless you have that answer, you're right. This would not be a good solution for us. So again, go to the source. So this is what I would respond to this question. Thank you. Next question. You're muted. Just unmute yourself, Sanjay.
That's from Prakash Lohana. Do you see in the far future, alternate energy becomes the main source of energy throughout the world?
I would like to, but it'll take time. For a simple reason is, if you go technical, if you do a lot of solar and some wind, we call them inverter-based resource, IBR, inverter-based. If you know the power system, how it operates on inertia. Large rotating machines, hydro, steam turbines. So if the demand goes up suddenly, there's some leeway in the machine inertia to give you frequency support. If no inertia in the system, there's no frequency support. Load goes up, system will collapse. A lot of work is being done today to build inverters which are able to take care of this. So that's a technological handicap. It'll take time. But over time, when I do not know, maybe 2050 timeframe, we'll have enough technology to accept inverter-based resources, large percentage in my system to run this. It'll take time. And also it costs money. So the question then becomes, what can you do to make things manageable in the meantime? Hydro is not a problem. Hydro has inertia built in. So question is, how fast we'll get there to accept electronics to make things happen. It's a matter of time, not a matter of whether, it's a matter of when.
Okay. Seb, that's okay, but a lot of praises have come. Excellent presentation, initiative from IEEE. Provides us with the tools to influence our community. That's the good words that is coming up in the chat box. That's all for us, sir, particularly you. So we close the question answer session. May I now request Professor Takako Hashimoto, our Director-elect for Region 10, to make the closing remarks and propose the vote of thanks to Professor Rahman. Over to Professor Takako.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello everyone, I am Takako Hashimoto, Region 10 Director-elect. We are at the end of Region 10 talk on climate change, technologists' role in addressing climate sustainability. And I'd like to say a few words to close this Region 10 talk and to thank everyone involved. And firstly, a big thanks to Professor Saifur Rahman. You took time out of your busy schedule and a pretty early morning to come and share your knowledge and thought with us. Your talk helped us understand the importance of climate change. It is a big problem that affects our whole world. It changes our weather, makes it hotter, and can cause big storms and drought. It can harm our food and water, and even our health. But it's not just about nature, it also impacts how people live around the world, posing problems like poverty and inequality. So, Professor Saifur, your deep insight, the clarity of the presentation, and the thoughtful responses to our queries have not only increased our understanding of this topic, but have also inspired us to act. You managed to bridge the gap between theory, technology, and practical reality applications, making the topic accessible and relevant to us all. So, and Professor Saifa's passion and dedication towards climate change have raised an indelible mark on all of us. And we are all the more equipped to contribute towards the mitigation, adaptation, and resilience of climate change due to your enlightening talk. Thank you so much. In addition to all of you who have attended this Region 10 talk, thank you so much. Your questions and involvement have made this seminar much better. Your interest in the issue of climate change is clear, and we appreciate you for being here. I want, I also want to say thank you to the team who organized this talk. Region 10 Director Lance and Sanjay, and other ExCom chairs in Region 10. Ad hoc committee chair, Taik Father. So you worked hard to make sure everything ran smoothly. We couldn't have done it without you. So as we live today, remember, talking about climate change doesn't stop here. It's something we need to keep discussing and acting on. So today we learn. As engineers in IEEE, we need to use technologies to solve what we learn today to make a difference in our world. We can't wait for someone else to do it. We need to be the change. So once again, thank you so much for all coming and making this seminar a success. Together, we can make a better, greener future for everyone. So, and I think now let's our big round of applause to Professor Saifur. So we are so thankful for your enlightening talk today. Thank you so much.
One last, I want to see all of you in Ottawa, if I may. That'll make my life interesting. So hope to see many of you in Ottawa. We'll visit the climate change pavilion, contribute to the discussion, and say what you can do, what you will do, and what you have done. That'll make my day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We are just at the last end. Our next webinar, just a fortnight ahead of it, that's on 24th, by Dr. Yu Yuan, President of IEEE Standards Association. The topic will be the acceleration and sustainability of metaverse development. So please be tuned with us to get the flyers and the link so that you can register and join. Coming soon, similar thing, what we have today, that's R10 panel on climate change, that's on 29 July. The panelist speaker will be Dr. Louis Kuhn, President IEEE SSIT, and Dr. Shea, President-elect IEEE PS. And following the next day, that's 30th July, we will be having a student activity on climate change. That's R10 training. That's particularly for the students. So they should be aware more than us. That's our feeling. So the nominations have to come from the section chairs. So these are the two events that we have lined up for the next webinar on R10. And with these words, you can just give us our feedback by scanning the QR code, and whatever you have liked and what more you want to hear from us. Next slide. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, the committees, that's the Industrial Relations Committee, the Team of Professional Activities Committee, R10 YP, R10 Humanitarian Technology, we, Student Activities Committee, and Life Member Committee. Thank you very much. Stay tuned with us. Professor Lance has raised a hand. Sir.
Yes, thank you, Sanjay. Just before we go, I just share on the chat box one of the link that IEEE MCE have produced in terms of the carbon CO2 footprint calculator. So I would advise everyone to take a good look at it so that you can have some idea as regard to some of our impact that we are making individually. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Today's presentation, that will be somehow, it will take some time. So it can be, you can see it on the YouTube, but the presentations will be there. You can share with us. I will be sharing with you. Thank you. Thank you for your active participation. Stay tuned with us to know more about our next webinars and workshops. We'll be coming back soon. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Oh, Jennifer, you have one question? Jennifer, just one. Jennifer, if you want to add something.
Thank you so much. No, thank you. I just want to say thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.